Arknights Endfiled has been out for over a month and there has been a lot of discussion about it, mostly around its gacha. I want to give my take on it, but also share my impression of the game as a whole, because starting a game just for its gacha is definitely not something what I would recommend. I played the game since release, finished the main story, engaged with the factory and combat, and lost my 50-50 on the levy banner, so I think I interacted enough with the game to form my opinion. I included timestamps, so if the gacha is all you care about, feel free to skip ahead. But without further ado, I am Jack, and here is my impression of the game as a free-to-play player. I will not dive too deep into the story because it's actually really long, but I do want to give some context for what is happening and why I think it's not received well by the majority of the players. When you first start the game, you take the role of the administrator, the leader of the Endfield industries, and are put into a short tutorial that teaches you the basics. After that, you wake up and it's explained that you've been asleep for 10 years and you can't remember anything. You are introduced to the main planet of the game called Talos 2, and have to go there immediately to solve a problem in one of its areas called Valley 4. There is an action sequence, we have to save Andre, fight a miniboss, and restore order. But after this is where the story breaks for me. Once the crisis is averted, the main story is combined with a tutorial for one of the major systems, the factory. It makes sense from a story perspective. After all, we are known for our advanced technology that can help people create resources out of basically nothing. My issue with it is that it drags on too long. Spent a lot of time trying to understand how the main factory works, and when we are done with that, the next part of the story still revolves around another part of the factory, the outpost. All this adds to a massive tutorial very early on, that I ended up skipping ahead and had to go back to understand. On top of that, because this is the first patch, a lot of the pole currency is tied to the main story, for a lot of players including myself. This can feel overwhelming and I really wish these sections were separate quests. Once you are done, you meet with your friends, something explodes, and you have to go there and see what's happening. We go to the Originium Science Park and find out that our main route has been cut off, so we have to take a detour. And here is my second issue with the story. In order to get to the destination, you have to go through 3 different areas of the map, and this just felt too slow. We have been presented with a massive issue, but by the time we get there, not only doesn't it feel like a major threat anymore, because it's been there for quite a while, but also I felt exhausted of the plot. I ended up skipping major parts of the story when I got to the last area because I just wanted to be done with it. I don't want to talk about chapter 2 because it's not finished and I want to see how it unfolds to form a proper opinion. Now, I don't want to say that the whole story is bad. There were moments when I genuinely laughed or was curious of the characters we meet, and the actual finale of the first chapter is actually quite good, and sad at the same time. But in the end, I just think the story struggles with pacing, and is one of the weakest points for now. I do really hope they will improve it, because the lore is actually quite interesting. But enough about the story, let's talk factory. The factory system is the core of Endfield and what makes it different from other gacha games. It's also a lot of fun. The idea of the system is that you can produce valuables to sell and also build into the environment. In order to do that, you have the AIC factory. Here you can turn minerals and plants into basically anything using facilities and formulas. You have one main AIC in each region and can deploy more in special locations called outposts. Each of these has a separate quest in which you learn about them and the people living inside. Your role is to manage the outpost, deliver goods, and set up defenses against invaders. This not only gives a sense of progression, but also helps with the immersion of the game because you connect with the people of the planet. Each outpost will require specific goods to help it evolve, and the game recommends you the best ones to focus on. You must use your factories to gather minerals and produce plants from seeds. With these basic ingredients, use the power of science, and guides on YouTube, to produce goods. I have to say that I really enjoy the system. You can optimize your production a lot and spend hours wondering why your plant system isn't working anymore. Of course, you do all of this for money. Each time you deliver goods to the outpost, you receive bills that are specific for each region. Apart from delivering goods, there are other ways to earn bills. You can become a delivery man, a skilled photographer, or take part into the stock market. Or, if you are not in the mood, you can also let your friends do some of this for you. These bills are used to purchase resources to level up your units and weapons, buying gifts for your characters or items to display in your spaceship, and also are used for crafting gear. From each of these factories you can build electric poles to transport energy into the overworld. This helps with mining, transportation, and even fighting. You can also see other players' structures and interact with them. Some of them are really useful, trust me. As a building game enjoyer, I think the system is really fun. It might not be as complex as other primary building games, but it does a good job of teaching resource management and proper placement of facilities and making each player's map feel unique. Also, the factory must grow. And if you are not into building games, don't worry, you can just copy the blueprints of people online and be done with this system pretty soon. My issues with this are the poor introduction, as I mentioned, and also that once you buy everything in the first region shop, the builds you produce don't actually do much. There are some items you can buy daily, but they are tied to how much stamina you have. The second region has some more useful items, because they are related to gear, so you are much more intensified to produce there. I really hope they're gonna do something about this and not abandon the first regions once we move on with the story. But now, tell me, are you tired of pressing only 2 buttons in your gacha games? Don't worry, as Arknights Endfiled introduces a third one. We're really making progress here. The characters in this game are called operators. Each of them has an element and a role and can equip a weapon and gear. Also, as in every gacha, they will get benefits from pulling them multiple times. One important thing to mention is that the gear has no RNG. It has fixed stats and can be crafted and upgraded with the factory. The only RNG is tied to an item that you have to equip to your weapon, but even that has ways to eventually get the correct stats. Moving on, each operator has 4 abilities: basic, battle skill, combo skill, and ultimate, and 4 talents, with 2 of them being for combat and 2 to produce upgrade materials on your spaceship. You can spam your basic at any time. The battle skill is tied to a resource called skill points that you can see above your health. The combo skill has a specific condition for each operator that needs to be fulfilled in order to use it, and also has a cooldown that you can see above your operator's health in the bottom left corner. And the ultimate is tied to energy that you get from using your other abilities. You can have up to 4 operators in a team, but you control the movement and basic of a main controlled one. Even so, all 4 of them are present on the field at all time, but they will let you drown in the lake and stare at you while you do. Even though there is a main operator, you control all the actions of the others in the team as well. This happens without switching between them, so you can have all your units do their actions at the same time. You can technically always swap the main control operator with any other on the field, although in the current version there is not really a use for this. The core of the combat revolves around the elemental system. At launch you have physical, cryo, electric, heat, and nature, although it is hinted that we're gonna have ether as well. The system is rather complex, but to make it simple, there are only 2 things you need to know. You can inflict these elements into the enemies, and you can consume them. They can both be done in a lot of ways, but the character's kit will specify when they are able to do so. When you inflict an element, it will add a stack of it onto the enemy that you can see near its health. If you apply the same infliction again, it will do some damage and apply another stack of it up to a maximum of 4. To consume this, you need to inflict another element triggering a reaction. This will be shown below the enemy's health. The reaction only depends on the second element you use, and the strength of it on the number of stacks of the initial element. Physical infliction works a little different. It does not interact with the other elements, and the only way to consume it is by using other physical inflictions called Crush and Breach. They will normally just apply the infliction, but if the enemy already has it, it will be consumed and either deal damage or apply a debuff. This is just a simplified version. The system is much more complex, and when you combine it with the other parts of the combat, there is a lot of room for optimization and skill expression. But you also have the option to just follow a specific rotation and everything will work fine. Coming from the other gachas, the combat feels refreshing. It is nice to have some variety and not just move from character A to character B, and to see that the elements aren't just a color and actually have their identity and interactions. It's nice. Not only that, but because there is little RNG in the gearing, I know my operators with enough investment will be at their max performance. There is no hunt for one more crit or speed roll stat. But now we go into the most controversial system of the game, the gacha. The system is a little complicated, so I'll try to do an overview of how it works. The gacha for the characters is called headhunting. You have a standard and a limited banner, with the first being permanent and the second only available for a period of time. To summon, you can use tickets, some are universal and some are specific for the current banner, or a barrel that is the currency you will receive the most from all sorts of activities, and Origeometry, the currency you buy with real money, but the game gives you some via the story and collecting stuff around the map. You can get characters of 5, 4 or 6 star rarity, with the rates being as follow, with one temple guaranteeing you a 5 star. Each time you get a 6 star, there is a 50% chance to be the unit on the banner. The other 50% is from a pool of units consisting of the 5 standard ones and the last 2 limited units that just had a banner. So you can get limited units even when you lose a 50-50. There are 2 PT systems that require 80 and 120 pulls respectively. Each pull you do counts for both of them at the same time, and the counter will carry over for the 80 PT but not for the 120. At 80 PT you are guaranteed a 6 star, and there is also a soft PT starting at 65 that will increase the odds of you getting one earlier. and as soon as you get a 6 star, this PT will reset. If you lose your 50-50, the next time you get a 6 star, it is not guaranteed to be the one on the banner. Instead, after 120 pulls, you hit the other PT and are guaranteed to get that limited unit. The counter for this won't reset if you get another 6 star, and it will only do when you get the one that is on the banner or the banner ends. In addition to this, there are two other small things. On each banner, once you do 30 pulls, you get a free 10 pull, but this won't count for any PT. And once you do 60 pulls, you'll get a voucher that will turn into a 10 pull for the next banner, and only for that one. Each time you pull a unit, you also receive other currencies used in separate shops called quotas and arsenal tickets. Quotas are of three kinds: bond that you get from pulling 5 or 6 stars, and the most valuable items from this shop are the pull tickets. AIC that you get from duplicates of 4 and 5 stars, and with the most valuable item being 5 pulls for the ongoing banner. And endpoint that you get from duplicates of 6 stars. So not a shop for free-to-play players, but it only gives weapons that you can get in other ways anyway. As for the arsenal tickets, they are used to get weapons in a shop called Arsenal Exchange. Here you can directly buy weapons or use your tickets on the standard or limited banners. For the banners you can only do 10 pulls, called Arsenal Issues, that cost 1980 tickets, but you can also convert Origeometry into them. You can get 4, 5 and 6 star weapons, and the rates are as follow. When you get a 6 star, there is a 25% chance to be the weapon on the banner, or 75% to be something else. In addition, this banner also has two PTs, one after 4 issues or 40 pulls, that guarantees a 6 star, and one after 8 issues or 80 pulls that guarantees the weapon on the banner. Since the arsenal tickets are mainly obtained from pulling characters, on average you will need to summon around 50 times on the character banners, being it limited or standard, or just get a 6 star in order to afford an issue. One important aspect is that the weapon banner won't end with its character. It will remain available for the duration of the next 2 banners. And this is the whole system simplified. There are also other perks after you get the limited unit or weapon, but for the majority of the players, they don't really matter. So, what was my experience with the gacha and what I think of it? Well, first of all, it's a gacha, so these systems will never feel good. But, comparing it to the other gachas, I can say that I like it. I don't have a problem with the 120 PT, I usually save anyway for a new character. The game also gives you 5 pulls when a new banner is released, and you can also get 5 more from the shop I mentioned earlier, making this feel more like a 110. But even if I don't want the unit, I can use this temple to build my 80 PT for when I actually do want the character. And I personally prefer to save 30 more pulls over the usual 80 to guarantee a unit, rather than gambling on a 50-50. But also I like it because, at least for me, the 50-50 guarantee never felt good. If I don't have the guarantee, I know I have to save around 140 to 160 pulls to guarantee the unit, not even including their weapon, and we all know how relying some DPSs are on their signature. But even if I have it, that's just because I already invested some pulls and failed to get the unit that I wanted. And yes, here you can lose more 50-50s, but all of them are within the 120 pulls or 80 for the weapon. A lot of people saw multiple 50-50 losses in a row and compared it with the other gachas when you have to reach a PT for this. In reality, most of the time you'll get 1 or maybe 2 6 stars before you reach the guarantee. And even if you lose the 50-50, you can still get a limited unit. I like it when HSR added this, and those were all 5 stars. So I appreciate it here as well. The true problem in my opinion is the weapon banner. At first it looked good, getting currency for the weapon when you're trying to get a unit as well seems nice, but just from one character banner you can't guarantee the weapon, so you're put in a weird situation of wanting more tickets, but in order to get them you have to summon 4 characters, and because the PT doesn't carry over, that's the true moment when it feels like wasting resources. Not to mention, if you just want the weapon, the problems just get worse. I hope they will either rework this system or just let us collect a meaningful amount of tickets without summoning characters. The only saving grace I have for this is related to the battle pass. For those that don't know, you can upgrade your battle pass using Origeometry. The game gives you enough for this, so it's basically free. This updated battle pass gives you a box with a selection of weapons. These are tailor-made for the limited units and are like a second signature for them. I found about this late, but if I knew, I would have saved my tickets and give Levi the weapon from this box. But even with all of the flaws that I mentioned, the fact that if I save 110 pulls, I know for sure I will get the character I want and at least their second best in slot weapon still feels better for me than my experience in the other gachas. I ended up getting Levi at 110 PT and pulled her weapon afterwards, so I don't think the game has a problems with pull economy. A lot of players are scared of the fact that the pull costs 500 for a barrel, but that is just a number. What matters is how many we get. And if you compare dailies, weeklies and events, they give more than we're used to, because they're adjusted for this number. I don't want to make assumptions about the generosity in the future versions, because we just don't know yet. But considering they gave us the best standard unit with her weapon, and when players complained, they gave us a 10 pull and a standard selector, I have trust that they will care about the player base. In the end, I started this game because of how it looks and because I like DMC, and I was surprised of how smoothly it actually runs even on my 60-year-old laptop. I love the environments and the overall vibe, I enjoyed the combat more than I thought, and I'm pretty sure that after I manage this factory for so long, I can get at least 4 jobs. To be honest, when I first started the game, I was fully prepared to find just another copy of the last main gachas. A game that uses the formulas that we've been used to for the last 6 years. Because it's safe. And I was surprised to find a game that tries something new. This will always stir up conversations. Is it better? Is it worse? But why not just let it be different? Those are my impressions, and I advise you to at least try the game. It's free, so if you don't like it, you can always uninstall it. But this was Jag, and I will see you next time. Maybe.